I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 117 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today I have a special guest for us, Julie Reisler. Julie is a life designer who works with and coaches big-hearted high achievers. She is all about helping you tune into your inner wisdom to be what she calls your youest you. And I just love that phrase. Julie is the author of the Get a PhD in You book series. She is a multiple-time TEDx speaker, the host of the Youest You podcast, and she's a mindfulness teacher on the popular app Insight Timer. So you may have actually heard her help you meditate there. Julie has a master's degree in coaching. She has more than 12 certifications in mindset, leadership, and well-being. And she's on the faculty at Georgetown University in their coaching program. But most importantly, she is super passionate about helping you master your inner world so you can master your outer world. And that is why I have her on the podcast today. She is sharing her work to help you get a PhD in you. So without further delay, I want you to meet Julie Reisler. So Julie, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited.
It's been fun, and we are like squeezing this in. We're recording this in the middle of the holiday madness. So thank you for accommodating our crazy schedules and your crazy schedule as well. You are definitely in demand.
Well, it's all about maximizing the moments and being present. And I'm so happy to be here with you. So it's perfect. It's all good.
Excellent. So just to get everyone kind of grounded in your story, tell me and us a little bit about your family first.
Yeah. Like, how long do we have here? I'm going to make this succinct. And you want me to talk about the family I grew up in or
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I would just say this, the best way to kind of put it all together. I grew up in the East Coast in the Boston area, very highly intellectual area. Most friends, parents either worked or went to Harvard or MIT. It was that kind of setting. And it's interesting. I grew up very loving parents. It was, I didn't realize at the time I did well in school because I worked really hard, but I wouldn't say I'm an intellectual. I would say what I started to realize was I was better at people. I got into psychology. There was a little side elective in high school. And I remember thinking, oh my God, whatever this is, this makes more sense to me than the past 12 years of everything I've been doing. And so, I had a lot of feelings of just frankly not feeling good enough, feeling like, I am not as smart as these people. I mean, literally out of the 20 people I was really close with, I was the only one not to go to an Ivy League school. And I went to a great school and I could have transferred. And the irony was I was like, no, I want to stay where I am. But it really, I think what happened was I was in this heightened competitive place.
Yes.
Even, a very affluent area. My family, my dad who had PTSD and dealt with depression and didn't know it, really struggled. And so we lived, in a great house, but comparatively, I always say we were next to these gigantic 7-room mansion. So no matter what you're living in. So it just set up this compare and contrast experience. Yeah. And that's a lot of, I think for me, I used food to handle feelings of not good enough or, feelings of just, that I was dissatisfied or frustrated with myself or the situation. And so a lot of my unpacking that and learning how to find that self-connection, find what really moves and lights me up, find how to, love and honor who I am, really disengaging from that whole comparative model. That took a while. And for me, it was really the overeating that got out of control for me. You wouldn't have known it looking at me, but binging, secretive eating in the bathroom. Eating out of my trash bag at work. It's just kind of not the behaviors I was really looking for in my life. And that brought me to a moment where I thought, I said, I'm either going to continue like this? And I had considered, honestly, ending my life. It was that bad, or getting help. And I went and got to a support group. And so that was the beginning of really what I call my excavating my truest, my meest me.
That's amazing. And it does tip off this whole redemptive chapter for you, but then also paying it forward, which we're going to get into all the things about. So thank you for being so honest and brave with our audience. I think it's really powerful whenever a guest is willing to share from their heart, the backstory, right? How you got to be you. It's all part of you, which is really a huge connection to what our topic is for today and why I was excited about having you on. So you mentioned something in there that, you discovered psychology and you were like, wow, this is what I want to study. So that's what you studied in college.
Yeah. So I studied psychology and public health. I did a double major, and the very end, it's so funny. I was like, I loved everything. So I ended up, I did art history, which is very interesting. It's kind of the psychology using visuals. And I had said, if I had found that earlier, I probably would have been art history, art therapy. I didn't want to be a psychologist though. And that's where I was like, how do I use this? So that started this interesting journey. But I studied psychology in college and fell in love with it. Oh my God, fell in love.
And what did you want to be at that point?
It's a great, great question. I did not have the words yet. There was no such thing as a coach. This is, I'm going to give my age here, but we're talking, late 90s. So in that timing, the turn of to 2000 times,
right?
Yeah, coaching was not a thing. I just knew I wanted to help people to live their best life. I wanted to help people get the things that I had struggled with out of the way. I knew that conceptually, but I knew I did not want to go into research. I did not want to become a psychologist. Something about, even though I had seen them, and I think counselor psychologists are great, I didn't want to focus on the past so much, and I didn't want to do research. So I took a 1-year fellowship at University of Virginia. It was building community. It's so funny when I look back now, because that's really one of my skills, is building community. And I just thought, okay, it's a year, I'll go live there. It was incredible. But it's, for me, it's been like breadcrumbs. It's been, following this treasure map. I was like, oh, I like community. I love people. I relate to people. I'm very empathic. I'm very good at, understanding what makes people motivated. I'm good at, so it just, it kind of unfolded as I went along.
Mm-hmm. And did you do a turn through a corporate life before you started your own business?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Me
So
too.
I did. I was in the nonprofit world for 6 years, and I ran, social justice programs. That was really cool. But I got to the place where I'm like, this is not working. And I have a very strong intuition that I did not listen to for quite a long time. And I was with a friend. We were at Panera, which was new at the time, newer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this strong sense. Something said, Julie, you should work here. This made no sense. I had done restaurants.
I love it.
In, summers in high school and college, but really yeah. So I went and told the manager, I said, hey, I have no idea if you have any positions. I love this company. I've been coming. I love the coffee. I love everything. And the next day I got a call, and I ended up starting as a manager for 6 months. And they said, Julie, we have no idea. It was a newer franchise, which is now the largest, most successful franchise in the country. They're like, we're going to just put you in and do something, but we're not sure what. And I was like, okay, great. I just trusted them, and ended up being 11 years with them. I was director of recruiting. I did guest relations. I did leadership training. And we went from 10 to 65 stores. So I got excellent, really getting a sense of people. I talked to 30 to 50 people a day about their experience. And then I interviewed people every day.
That's so fun. And this is making me giggle because for a chapter when my children were very young, they used to tell people I worked at Panera. But what they meant was I didn't have an office, right? And so I would often go sit at a Panera and they'd be like, oh, my mom works at Panera. So, but you literally worked at Panera, which is so fun. Yeah. So then from that chapter, there was a nudge to start your own thing. And so tell everyone about what you do now at the USU.
Yeah. It's like that great phrase or quote, I think it's Harrison Ford, that says it takes 20 years to become an overnight success, or anything that looks like, oh, wow, look what you're doing. I'm like, look, this got started in 2000, 2003. I think with the work I started to do on myself, and I got back into, I had a background growing up. My mom was a music teacher, performer, so I did a lot on camera and performing and I loved being self-expressed that way. So I started doing acting, commercials. It was wild while I was at Panera and dealing with this food addiction. And that brought me to a lot of personal development experiences and through coaching and therapy. And I always say like 50 grand of therapy, you too can like figure yourself out. But it was the coaching. And it was a lot of this introspective, my support group. I had sponsors. I mean, I was just, thousands of hours. And it finally hit me a couple years before I left Panera. I was like, I'm supposed to be doing this. I need to help people. Like I did not just go through this experience of, not wanting to live anymore to having this connection to myself that I felt like gave me freedom I'd never felt. I had 2 young kids. I had also had a complete, dark night of the soul. I woke up knowing I did not want to be in that marriage anymore. So a lot was going on. I don't recommend all of this, but health breakdown, but I had this peace and I thought, I want to help people to find their inner stability, their inner peace, their inner divinity. And I actually got really into Marie Forleo years ago, who is phenomenal. I've interviewed her and met her. She's amazing. And I just would watch her and like every day I would work on my website. And so 2 years later, I left and started my own business about 5.5 years ago.
So awesome. I love it. And I love how there's these clues of like people you're paying attention to and modeling, whether it was your own therapist or Marie really pioneering the idea of having an online business and the ability to reach an audience, anywhere. Like if you look at early Marie Forleo, which sounds like was when you were paying attention, like it's not the polished look and feel that it is today because she was just getting it done. So I love that you're paying attention to those people and kind of shaping this business. So at some point along this journey, you wrote a book.
Yeah. So what happened is I felt like I leapt and I just prayed the net would appear. I had an inner knowing that I was supposed to be doing that. And so, that means like started a little part-time gig as a health coach. I don't do that really today, but it fell through. It wasn't integrity, like didn't get paid. I mean, you have to have this kind of, I think this inner belief in your purpose. And then I started to hear, as I started to get more coaching clients and I did some mindset leadership trainings, working with companies. I heard this voice for a year that was like, Julie, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I thought, back to the intellectual, well, I did okay in English, not great. I was always really flowery. I don't know if I can write a book. And then all of a sudden, of course, the way the universe works, I had a friend who just written an amazing book and she gave me this like mind mappy, right brain approach. And I literally went home that night and the entire like outline wrote itself.
Awesome.
So I wrote it. I actually hand wrote it. I do not recommend that at all. But, and I've since written another one and I'm on my 3rd right now. But this first book really was felt like my first baby. It has a lot of love in there. And I really wrote it for like my younger self and for those people that I knew I was coaching and working with that had just started the path of waking up to who they are.
Mm-hmm. And that was Get a PhD in You.
That was Get a PhD in You. Yeah, the second one is the business version, but the first really is that like, I would always say, go to that one, that deep dive of who you are.
Yeah. And so that's what we're going to unpack a bit today is what is this premise behind Get a PhD in You? And so it's really an acronym. PhD stands for something. Tell us what those 3 letters stand for.
Yeah. I mean, look, the book has like a ton of activities and questions. I mean, it's all about you digging into you. It has my story woven in, but the premise is based on the acronym of PhD, which is P is really about looking at your past. We tend to look at where we suck and where we've made mistakes. The work that I've done, what I've seen is when you focus on where have you thrived, where, high point moments, where have you felt most alive? What did you love to do when you were little? Like the past, like extracting the best of the best brings a different energy to the present and the future. So past is really looking at where have you been? What are your strengths? Where have you come alive? Those questions. The H is about now, right now, which is really all we do have is honoring right now. What is working right now? What can you appreciate right now? What are the things that are the sweet spots that are working, that are really for your highest good right now? And then D is the direction of your desires and your dreams. And I do think I'm a big believer. If you have that desire, then that is meant to be manifest. It's meant to happen. Obviously, when we're talking in the realm of, win-win and higher good, I'm not talking about when, that's a whole other conversation. If it's something that you are desiring that's negative, what happens is it comes back to you. So I like to always say, what are my dreams and desires that are for my highest good, and all those that I'm here to connect with and serve.
I love
And so you're pulling from the past, you're taking from the present, and that's helping you to map out and create the future. But the thing is, you're doing it from that lens of a strength-based, appreciative focus, and gives you a very different response than when you look at, where did I fail? Not that that isn't a place to look at, but not as powerful.
Right. And so it is a bit of past, present, and future, right? Like P is past, H is honor the right now. What are you attracted to? What's happening? What feels really in flow for you right now? And D, direction of your desire and dream. So the future. So this notion, what I think is great is you have a ton of activities and exercises that can help people dig a level or two deeper. Sometimes I say you have to double click on some of these concepts, right? To really sit with them. They don't always surface immediately. But what I was so intrigued by when we started talking, weeks ago, is this notion of self-awareness and how important it is to have a much deeper level of self-awareness and self-understanding and compassion than most of us have naturally. Like you said, you've done the work. You have thousands of hours invested in your own self-awareness. And I would expect some of these tools are the things that helped you get there, right? So what's the worth of that as a concept of really, you just think about the title, Get a PhD in You is so clear to me. That's such a clear title of you should have that depth of understanding of yourself. Why?
Well, here's the irony. Actually, it just occurred to me as you said that, I said my early story of where I grew up, so much intellectualism, right? Like we study physics, we study psychology, we study architecture, all very important things to study. Many people have PhDs and doctorates. However, wherever you go, there you are, right? Our thoughts are things that we say to ourselves are the complete, that's what is going to create a reality. It's all based on how we are internally. I always say your outer world is reflecting your inner world. So what occurred to me, and it kind of just put like that little interesting bow on growing up in that intellectual type environment where I'm like, but what about knowing yourself? Because what I saw was when I started to really hone in on my strengths, my gifts, my talents, where I thrive, where I flourish, where what's fun, the areas I don't like to, I'm not as easy and not as in the flow for me. When you take all of that and you start to really know yourself, that's priceless, because anything that's going on in your life, you're going to bring yourself there. I mean, you don't, I hate to say it, or it's a great thing to know, you're with yourself the rest of your life.
Hey friend, ever wondered why you're so tired all the time? Why you need that afternoon caffeine hit every day just to stay in the game? Hint, you probably need more sleep. So I created something just for you. It's my 7-day sleep makeover. I'll teach you the 3 steps you need to move from exhausted to energized so you can live out your brilliant dreams. Head to brilliantbalance.net/sleep and start your sleep makeover today. You're going to love this.
So this is like, to me, the most important work you can do. Like I would love to get this in, version for kindergartners all the way up to end of high school to college, because to know yourself like that, to really do that kind of inner work and have that faith and that peace and that knowingness and that confidence, it changes the game. I mean, I've tracked it in my own life. Yeah. It becomes, as I say, like your life becomes by design and not by default. And many of us live by default. And I've done that before myself.
That's what I think is so clear to me about this work is you can get a PhD in virtually anything, right? You can be an expert in anything. But if you do it without the self-awareness, if you do it without understanding yourself, there's like an emptiness that can come with that intellectualism, right? So I loved how you started your story by talking about that. And I think for a lot of the women who listen to this podcast, we're sort of piecing that together bit by bit, right? How do you really understand what are the mindset patterns that might be holding you back? What are the places where you're not letting yourself be who you really are? Where are you stuck because there's this like corner of yourself you won't go into? And when all of that is unleashed and you're really able to, I say stand in your brilliance, that's why we call it brilliant balance, right? And step toward your highest potential, like that's when life gets really good. So these 3 patterns, the past, the honoring of right now, and the direction of your desires and dreams you think are the clues to really having that self-awareness. So you had shared with me a couple of tools that people might use to really double click on or deepen that inner wisdom. Let's talk about what it means to access your gut intelligence.
Yeah. And I love how you said that. Look, one thing I want to just say is that all of us have an inner wisdom that is, I think of as your, like, legit your superpower. And when you, as you said, flow with that, your brilliance is able to shine and illuminate. And I do believe we all have that. And what happens is we often get into our head and what's right and what we think is wrong, and we get doubt and worry, and that takes us off that path. And so what we're doing and talking about is, how do you hone in on that inner wisdom? Some people call it intuition, a knowing, gut intelligence. You could even call it heart intelligence. There's science behind, the intelligence in our heart as well. So it's this space of, it's this knowingness, it's this place. And I would ask everyone to think about, when in your life, can you think of a time when you just had a sense, you had a knowing, a vision, a gut feeling? Like, I would take some notes and I would come up with 3. You don't even need to span your whole life. Just find 3 times, a high point experience, moment, or time where you felt really connected to that gut wisdom, and what happened when you listen to it. What happened? Maybe you have an experience when you didn't listen to it. That's what happened to me. I started to look and say, oh my God, I've gotten a lot of these little nudges and I did not listen. Interesting. And so that kind of brings me to, so first, accessing that, the only way that it's been studied, it kind of gets like overly talked about, but really being still, breathing, you want to call it meditating, it really is the way to get out of that, fight, flight, and to drop down into a different kind of consciousness. You actually change your brain waves. And to do that, and it doesn't have to be like sitting on a mountain. You can literally sit anywhere. Yeah, 10 minutes would be ideal, 10, 15, but start with 5. I started with 30 seconds.
And we fight this so hard. Like, everyone is aware at this point. I feel like it's like knowing smoking is bad for you, right? Knowing smoking causes cancer, but people took years to kind of like really catch up the general population. I think that's where we are with meditation. Like, everyone knows, but we're still resisting doing it. So this is, it's going to be a huge theme in 2020 is stillness, quiet, breathing. And it's in that silence. It's like, I love how Matthew Kelly calls it the classroom of silence, that's where the downloads come. So accessing gut intelligence happens in silence is what I'm hearing you say.
You got to create some silence, some space. And I got to tell you, as an overachiever, overdoer, type A plus, like, this was my hardest thing. It was when I got a master's degree in coaching, and we had to do this. We had to write a dissertation on meditation and do it. And it was like literally one of the most painful things I started out in. And my teacher said, I have never seen someone who struggled so much with sitting still. I mean, and now, 8, 9 years later, it's changed and saved my life. And there's many stories I could share. Not today, but where I've seen, oh my God, there's no way that would have been me beforehand. And I think part of the thing is, it's not, you don't necessarily get the sexy, quick results with meditation. It's going to be, what's going to happen is there's going to be a time where all of a sudden, like my daughter dropped a glass bowl before school. We're running late. And I like watched it, I observed it. And I had this like calm reaction. I did not know where that came from, because in the past I would have yelled and freaked out, and I didn't. So it just gives you this peace and this inner space of being able to choose your reaction. But anyway. Important.
And who doesn't want more of that, right? The like control over your response is, I think I just hear from so many women. I wish I weren't angry. I wish I weren't short. I wish I didn't yell, and knowing that this is a pathway to that is, I think, a really good hook if you're looking for one, right? To meditate. Let's talk about intuitive journaling as a second tool, because I think this might be a pathway. If silent meditation is really hard, intuitive journaling may give your hands something to do.
Yeah, this is a really powerful one. And this is what I would recommend everyone listening to do is, before you start, take an issue or concern or something you're worried about, and just write down, brain dump all the things that, your head's telling you, what you're fearful about, you're worried about, write it down. Then go to, it could be 2 minutes, just breathing, thinking of something really lovely or calm or peaceful, a place that you've been to. Give yourself 2 to 3 minutes at least to get into that space of coherence is what it's called, coherence with your heart, with your connection to your, breathing. And then I want you to ask that question, and I want you to journal everything that comes up, and no editing, no censoring. Doesn't matter if you're articulate. It doesn't matter if you spell wrong. I don't care. I just want you to notice when you ask. I think of it as asking. You could ask your heart. You could ask your gut, your third eye, your higher self. I don't care what you call it. It's the space that is not in the place of our mind and our ego. It's a different space. And just try that. Try that for 1 week every day. Take 5 minutes and ask yourself a question that you're concerned about and see what comes up. It has been unbelievably game changer for me and clients I've worked with, because what's there is different.
Because the answers are there.
The answers are there.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying about they're in the silence, they're in the breathing. And I think this intuitive journaling is a way to tap them. Like it gives them an outlet, right? So you're capturing them on the page. The answers are there. They just they need a way to flow out. So for a lot of the women that I coach, it's the same practice. It's something about through your brain to your hand onto the page can be a very powerful conduit to really give shape to some of those ideas. And then the third tool you mentioned is evidence tracking. Talk a little bit about this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, this for me has been very, very important. And I do it in a couple different ways, but really you're tracking evidence of your wins in your life, where you had that gut feeling or intuition or inner knowing, and you listened, and you can now see, oh my gosh, look what happened. Something incredible manifested that you've wanted, right? Like a desire, a dream. This just happened yesterday. Unbelievable. I put it out there. There's somebody that I want to interview who's, just been incredibly inspirational to me. And I just had someone yesterday say, Julie, my husband works with her actually. And I heard you speak at a conference and I'd love to connect to you. And I'm like, what? I've had that on my list for 3 years. So that's evidence, right? Or for me, I also, this is getting into a different realm, but I ask for a lot of signs that I'm on the right path. So it might be, I don't know, a number or a sign of a certain symbol. And when I see that, sometimes I connect it to people that have passed on even. For me, that works. I mean, everyone take what they like and leave the rest. It could just be, just from the universe. I just want a sign that I'm in my flow, and to know that I'm going to see like a double rainbow today, or, something has popped in that you've wanted for a long time. It doesn't have to be as out there. It could be very tangible. I do this every day. And now I have notes in my phone, and I have a journal for this. And what happens is it changes your faith muscle, your belief. And, the more that you're seeing, oh my gosh, that's working. This is happening. The more that you're gonna want to continue bringing in stillness and bringing in that time to connect to your higher self. Remember, that's their superpower. We all have it. That leads to what we're always desiring.
So this is fascinating to me because I can remember having a conversation with my godfather years ago about coincidences and how, I think some people will write off just regularly occurring quote unquote coincidences, right? And I have always been of the belief, like, how can you write that off? That there's not something underneath, right? Those synchronicities, those moments that you can't explain. Like, how did that just happen? So you're suggesting that we track those, because then maybe in moments of lower faith, you have that to go back to say, no, this actually happens regularly in my life, when you're almost looking for that evidence as you walk through your day, your week. I love this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would broaden it to evidence of where things are going well in your life, right? Like where are you seeing, it could be around your health. It could be around connecting with your children, anything. These are just, so, I kind of keep it both wins in my life, and I keep it evidence with where do I feel supported by my flow state, by the universe. Absolutely.
So good. Okay. So I think we've unpacked the model here. We have the PhD, past, honor, and direction, for shorthand. And then these 3 practices that can really help you double click on or tap a new depth of inner wisdom. We talked about gut intelligence and how you can access it through silence, intuitive journaling, and evidence tracking as 3 pieces. So you have packed a ton into this episode for our listeners. You have a couple of other things that you have generously offered to them. So let's tell them how they can get a free copy of your book, which is very exciting.
Yeah, no, it's so excited. This book was created with so much love, and I had the small goal if it could help one person. And what I'll say is, thankfully, it's helped. I'm grateful to say it's helped a lot of people. I actually have a reader that told me recently she looked for her birth mother for the first time. She's 32 after working through this book. I got to tell you, that was like, well, that was worth everything to write. I mean, that was worth the whole thing.
Yeah.
So people can get it. It's juliereisler.com/free book. And you can
Perfect.
be there. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll link it in the show notes. So, because all these names we have nobody can spell my name. They probably can't spell yours.
Oh, I'm sure not. Yeah.
So we'll link it up, but juliereisler.com/free book. And then there are some tools and worksheets that we're going to link for you as well that are in the companion journal. So that'll be linked in the show notes. And then tell us about this video series.
Yeah. So it's so funny because how will I say this? I couldn't get enough of the PhD in you. And I was like, all right, what about people in the business space so the second book is really geared more towards career and purpose. And, I love both of them. It feels like, when you have two kids, you love them both, just different focus. So the video series I have is really all around how to use this PhD in you model with your career, with business.
Perfect.
And so you can the link is juliereisler.com/new book. That was my newer book. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it when people can go get more, right? So if you loved today's chat with Julie and you want to get more, these are some places that you can go and do that. So we are going to do a speed round here. We end every interview with a handful of questions that just help our listeners get to know you a little bit. So you ready?
I am ready. Yeah.
All right. So the first one is, what makes you feel brilliant?
What makes me feel brilliant? Honestly, it's really the things I talked about, when I track my evidence, when I'm listening and connecting to my higher wisdom, and then I just go in the world and things happen and manifest, and I track it. I'm like, I think it's brilliant. It's also grateful. And I think anything around intuition, I have a lot that I'm doing these days in a community, and I'm growing a whole group around it, just helping people to access their higher wisdom. That's really unlocking that for people. I would say that's connected as well, that whole world.
Great. Okay. What is your favorite time savings or productivity hack?
So I have a bunch. So this is the one that I've just recently discovered, because I have to move every day. I believe in you got to take care of your physical being. So I actually love going to the gym, and I used to hate these little machines, the elliptical and the just boring. And I have redefined them. I now have, I'm really into Gaia TV, which has incredible documentaries, or Netflix. And or podcasts. I find like I have a whole plan now of what I want to learn and what I want to study. And I link it to my exercising. So now it's 2 for 1.
Love it. Okay. What have you had to learn to say no to in your life?
Oh gosh. That is, Shonda Rhimes wrote The Year of Yes. I really need to write The Year of No. I am a big yes girl. I would actually say the thing that sticks out the most is realizing the marriage I was in was not appropriate and right for me. And so to say no to that was huge, courageous, pretty big deal for myself. And since then, I'm constantly asking, is this really something I love? Is this really something that my heart feels fully into? And if it's not, behind me, I have a litmus test. If it doesn't go through the litmus test, I say no.
Excellent. What is one big dream that you're chasing these days?
Great question. I have been really inspired by Reese Witherspoon's show, Shine On. She interviews top women entrepreneurs. And I have a background in on camera and TV. I also have coaching and what I'm doing. I really someday would love to have a show. I don't know what kind of platform it'll be on, but where I'm interviewing, people like you, just amazing women that are doing incredible things. And I really want to hone in on how they use that inner wisdom. So to kind of change the conversation consciousness so people can see it's not about competition and pushing your way to the top. It's actually about connecting.
That's awesome. Okay, here's a fun one. What song do you turn on when you need to get in the zone?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I have a ton of songs, but the one that I just listened to, I could go all different ways with that. You know what? Right Now by Van Halen.
Excellent.
That's been the one.
You got to trust your gut on your first answer. That's the first time we've heard that one too, which is great. Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone listening learned a lot as well. And I hope that you all go and get this book download because that is a gift that you don't want to miss. I think it's going to really give you a chance to put into practice some of what we talked about today. So Julie, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This has been so much fun. I really hope it was impactful for everybody.
Well, that was fun. Thank you so much for listening today. And I hope you learned many things that you can apply from the conversation that I had with Julie. So if you are new to the podcast, make sure you come join us in the Brilliant Balance Facebook group, where we are building a community of rockstar working moms. It is a fantastic community, more than 5,000 strong, and I would love to have you join us there. Just head on over to Facebook, search Brilliant Balance in the groups, and we will welcome you in. And make sure you're subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Just open up the podcast provider where you're listening, click that subscribe button, and we'll make sure all the new episodes make their way to your feed. Next week on the show, we are talking about making decisions, something that can be really hard actually when your brain is overloaded, like it is for a lot of us. So we're going to talk about decisions and don't miss that episode. That's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.